Welcome to another match preview here on Stones TV and the Maidstone United podcast, where we look ahead to our latest returned league away game, where we shall go to promotion rivals Eastbourne Borough. So the comings and goings at Priory Road since our last meeting: assistant manager Stuart Watkiss departed and was replaced by ex-forward Matt Green. His goal against Weymouth last April helped keep them in the National League South. Cameron Gabadebo was welcomed back to the club following his successful recovery from an anterior cruciate ligament injury. He ruptured it just minutes into his debut for the club at Welling in December 2023. Ex-Stone against the Stones, Alex Finney rejoined the sports back in December. He was visible at the Gallagher down there in the warm-ups pre-match. He left the sports trip to Truro City in March 2024 in an ambulance after he ruptured his patella tendon, which caused the game to be abandoned. Horrific news to receive from both those players' parts. It's great that they are back playing. Prolific forward John Chamallow joined on loan from Borough in the new year for the rest of the season. Young attacker Jason Adigan joined on loan from the Daggers just a week later. He was in the Welling side that picked up a point at the Gallagher last April. Ex-Stone against the Stones, James Alabi left the Borough a month ago now, and he has since signed on at Welling. Midfielder Finn Ballard McBride left the club on that same day. Dan Quick and Jaden Davis would go on to link up on loan with James Alabi at Welling. 18-year-old Braden Johnson joined Championship side Middlesbrough for an undisclosed fee. They made a swift replacement on the same day though, and they signed Josh Anafuoze from fellow Southside Aveley. And Sia Bonga Legenza joined Hastings on loan for the rest of this season, and last week the most recent transfer at time of recording saw young goalkeeper Finlay Weston leave the club with 0 first-team appearances, where he did have a loan spell at East Grinstead Town. So Nigel, some big names featuring here, a couple of ex-Stones and a couple of big movers in midfield for the sports.
Well, that's they're up there, aren't they? So it's like they're literally sort of shuffling the packs, aren't they, to try and sort of be proactive in the transfer market. And you know, they've got some good players in, and it's kind of like, you know, that's what you need to do, isn't it? If you've got a team that's, you know, like the lad they signed from Aveley, you know, he's down there struggling, but he's obviously a good player. So, you know, you get the best of the talent from the league that you're in, don't you, to sort of push you on. And they've never been short of goals, have they?
No.
That was, you know, that was probably the most impressive result for me. On the back, we mentioned in the Bath preview about, you know, that 3-3 draw, and then we came back here on the Gallagher the following Tuesday, didn't we? And got that 3-1 victory, and that was impressive. And I think that sort of like gave the team and the squad a lot of confidence at that time, and because we not long got knocked out of the FA Cup, so it, you know, it was a little bit sort of down, but you know, that gave us the impetus to go on that run that we did in December. So. Yeah, you know, again, we've said it before, haven't we? We tend to do better against teams that are in and around us, you know, taking the Torquay result, because teams come to play. When teams come in with that low block and put men behind the ball, we do tend to struggle to break teams down, especially if we haven't got that creative more midfielder since the loss of Papadopoulos and Rush to a certain extent as well. And, you know, recently in games, I mean, we've gone 3 games without scoring, haven't we? And at times Blair's been a little bit isolated in that. So, you know, against a team that comes to play, especially if they've got that home record to protect as well, you know, that should give us more opportunities. And you know, you said there about the midfielders, and they've got a lot of midfielders in. They're still trying to find their combinations, you know. You know, they're still on a good run of form. You sort of like, you know, it takes time for settle, and with hopefully with Sam Corn coming back, and you know, other players like Tate's in there, and Riley's sort of come into the team in the last few weeks, and yeah, Jordan Hicks in there. You know, really starting to establish themselves. Hopefully, we can sort of, you know, back that good result we had again at the Gallagher at the back end of November, and get a positive result on the road again.
So the key men for Eastbourne this season: in goal, Joe Wright has 12 clean sheets at time of recording. He's second only to our own Andre Jr. Of course. Moussa Diarra and David Cisse have been mainstays in the heart of the Borough's defence. Ex-Stone against the Stones, midfielder Dom Ordesanya has played every minute so far this season in the league at time of recording. And George Alexander missed a penalty at a crucial stage recently against Borough, but he's still the club's top scorer with 12 goals to his name this season. He scored an equaliser at the Gallagher in that previously mentioned November match before Biv's thunderbolt split the teams. So Nigel, some very familiar names to Stones fans there who have all played their part in Eastbourne's current position alongside the Stones.
Yeah, it's like you say, a proper familiar faces there. Diarra stands out. We come up against, locked horns against him many times in the National League, haven't we? I think he was at Borough when we first went up there, and Woking. He's been around, and he's a good sort of solid defender. And you've got the likes of we mentioned Finney as well. If he's fit, and what a good defender he is. He's that little bit of, when he's fully fit and we've got to run a game behind him. He's a class player, isn't he? Very comfortable on the ball and can pass it out from the back, wins his headers, So it is definitely going to be a tough nut to crack, and possibly I would say with their home record being unbeaten, it's probably one of the toughest away trips we've had of the season, I think. So, coming on the back of those sort of two defeats, or the recent defeats away at Slough and Chesham, it's going to be important to sort of get a positive result, as I say, and against a promotion rival as well. It's always good to sort of put that marker down, isn't it? Because it's looking like if we do make the playoffs, it could possibly be another trip to Eastbourne, or we could entertain them here. All these sort of scenarios are important now at this time of season, aren't they?
You mentioned the unbeaten run they've still got at home at time of recording. With the Stones losing those couple of away games eventually in the league, it did seem to, the momentum and the pressure, both angles seem to weigh down on them a little bit to make sure that gets maintained. And you do wonder, will Eastbourne have that same sort of feeling of anticipation?
Yeah, I think so. Obviously we don't know what their result was Saturday, but at the time of recording, it could be that they've lost that game against Hemel.
Freeze them up again afterwards, then.
Yeah, but then like we found, we lose that away record, and then you're quickly followed by another away defeat. You know what I mean? And I know it was at Slough, and notoriously we don't play well, or we struggle to get anything at Slough. But you've got to take each game on its merit, haven't you? So I'm sure George and Craig and the boys, they're going to have them fired up for this, because they're all saying that they need to get back on this sort of like unbeaten run, don't they? So what better way to do it than against your sort of promotion rival? Like you say, if they have still got that in place and that pressure's on them, if you can go there and beat them, that puts a marker down for the playoffs, doesn't it? Because that would be 6 points against the team that you're going to eventually face in the playoffs. So, all these games are important in their own right, and I've said it before. We've just got to win our little battles, and hopefully we come away with the 3 points.
So Eastbourne's form over the last 3 months then. Borough knocked the Sports out of the FA Trophy 11 days after they lost in the league to the Stones, just beside us there. They have played 14 further league games, 6 draws, 5 of which were goalless draws, 6 wins, 4 of those were at home, and 2 defeats, both of course on the road at Torquay, and most recently at time of filming at Borough. And due to having to film a week ahead of the game, we do not know the results of their trip to inform Enfield Town, nor do we know how they fared in their home game against another inform side, Hemel Hempstead Town, on Saturday. So Nigel, so a couple of tough games ahead before we arrive, and in the games we do know about, they've kept that unbeaten home run going, and we know how hard, as we've already discussed, how hard those unbeaten runs are to maintain.
Yeah, exactly. That's when you look to your bigger players. From Eastbourne's point of view, they're going to hope that the aforementioned Dom Ordesanya and George Alexander, who's their main sort of like leading goal scorer, isn't they? You're going to hope that those players sort of give you that bounce back ability that you're hoping for. So it's certainly that's when your sort of like character comes into question, isn't it? After a defeat. So as I say, they're facing a lot of informed teams before they get to us, and you know, they're not going to be. They're going to have one eye on this game. This is a big game, isn't it? You know, so again, it depends how they manage those games. If you've got players that are on yellow cards that have potentially could face a suspension, you might want to sort of jiggle the pack a little bit there, or you might just want to go hell for leather and just like take care of the business in front of you and let the Maidstone game take care of itself. But you know, these are all conundrums that we've talked about in our sort of like preview video. You know, how these managers sort of manage their squads in this run-in and how they sort of get the best out of them going into the sort of playoffs and the business end of the season and such.
So if you can't remember all of the players from the previous meeting, then why not head back to our previous preview video and podcast from this season for more information on Tuesday's opponents. The links to the video and podcast are both in the description below. And if you can't make it to the game on Tuesday night, be sure to tune in to myself and Darren Stiles from 7:30 on Stones Live. You'll see us in the hot take and then hear us on the highlights once they go online. So, well, at time of recording, we do not know if Hemel ended Eastbourne's unbeaten home run in the league this season. One thing's for certain, though, the Stones have been very successful against the Sports in recent meetings, and from a black and amber perspective at least, we all hope that sequence continues on Tuesday rather than Eastbourne's unbeaten home run. Thanks to you lot out there, as ever, for watching or listening to the latest preview. Like and subscribe on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. Simply just search for the Maidstone United podcast and you'll see or hear us for our next preview ahead of the home league game against Salisbury. And as always,
come on, you Stones!